The tactical tweak that gave Arteta his first win ever over Pep Guardiola. Today we're going to dive into Mikel Arteta's tactics versus Manchester City and why it works so well against the reigning champions that Arsenal have not beat since 2015. What a result for Arsenal and what a performance from Mikel Arteta. His tactics were fantastic and all of his subs contributed to the winner. So Arsenal lined up in their 4-2-3-1 that we've come to expect from Mikel Arteta. Usually when Arsenal set up in this way, the 8 kind of shift. Odegaard starts at number 10, he moves into the inside right channel. The other 8 moves into attacking midfield, and the defensive midfield is usually joined by the left back inverting. The tactical change against Manchester City was as follows. Instead of Zinchenko driving inside or the nominal left back moving into that inverted position, Declan Rice dropped and sat in defensive midfield, which not only gave Arsenal more security in the counter-attack and the transition, but it allowed Zinchenko, or the left back, of course, after his introduction, Tomiyasu, that ability to get in between the lines or play wide, forcing the left winger inside. That really opened up Manchester City's defensive shape when they moved to a 4-4-2 in the 68th minute. Before we dive in, though, I think we've got to answer a very, very simple question. That, of course, is about the red card. For me, Mateo Kovacic should have 100% been sent off in the first half. I think his 2 challenges, first on Martin Odegaard, arguably could have been a red card by itself, but the second challenge on, of course, Declan Rice is as bad. We can see how dangerous that is. That is a potential ankle breaker on Martin Odegaard, and the challenge on Declan Rice is as bad. For me, that is 2 yellow cards, 2 bookings, and Arsenal should have been playing against 10 men for most of the match. But anyway, let's move back to the tactical side of things. I think first and foremost, with Mikel Arteta deploying 2 true defensive midfielders in his setup and not, deploying a Kai Havertz that's usually going to roam into attacking midfield, is it gave Arsenal a great defensive structure. Not only were they really good pressing Manchester City out of the back, which we'll talk about in a sec, but they got back into their defensive structure really well, with Trossard dropping in, Jesus dropping on the right, Odegaard and Nketiah operating in a 4-4-2 shape. But as well, what it allowed Arsenal to do was when City were attacking them, you've got someone like Declan Rice, one of the best defensive midfielders on the planet off the ball. I think Declan Rice is a brilliant penalty box defender, having spent time in his career as a centre-half, but he's also great off the ball, in and around his own defensive third. You've got to think that West Ham United, he played there for a number of years and he really grew into that role. They spent a lot of time without possession. So Declan Rice's ability to not only deal with pressure, but kind of block 1-2s and really come back with fantastic challenges is a big reason why Arsenal bought him. I think Declan Rice for £115 million is a bargain. Let's be quite honest. He was absolutely superb against Manchester United and then a brilliant performance against Manchester City. Let's take a look at one of those moments, him getting back in, following a 1-2 and making a brilliant challenge on Matheus Nunes in the second half. And I think the big thing from Arsenal's perspective, playing this slightly different system, as we mentioned previously, with the left back being more the attacking player, more of an attacking wing back, inverting, with Declan Rice holding in midfield, gave Arsenal a lot of coverage in the defensive sense. So if we take a look at a moment in the second half, again, this is after the Manchester City changes. Matheus Nunes has come on the pitch. We all know his style. He's a dribbling central midfielder. He'll look to carry, he'll look for 1-2s and break forward. But this is brilliant defensive midfield play from Declan Rice. First and foremost, he's very aware of, this is a bit of a transitional moment for Manchester City. City have just won the ball back. Nunes is carrying through the heart of the Arsenal midfield, which again is a bit of a, scary situation. There's width out wide with Doku. Phil Foden sitting in the inside right channel. Haaland is that option into feet. Arsenal can't really block that off in this moment. The ball goes into the feet of Haaland after Nunes is carrying into the opponent's half. But just look at Declan Rice's awareness. He doesn't get too aggressive on Haaland. He doesn't ball watch. He very much notices what Matheus Nunes is doing, moving off the ball from the 1-2. And at this moment, he's on the wrong side. But the way that he gets back, puts in a brilliant tackle and wins the ball back for Arsenal is simply sublime defensive midfield play. Not only was there massive impact in a transitional moment for Declan Rice dealing with these types of problems, also sitting deep, he had the clearance off the line from the corner, but more importantly, Arsenal's pressing structure was absolutely fantastic, and Rice was arguably leading the press at the tip of the diamond in certain moments. So one of the real reasons why this game was so poor was because of how good both teams were off the ball. For me, Arsenal and Manchester City are 2 of the best teams off the ball in world football. The way that both teams press high and win the ball fullback in different ways is fantastic. City, of course, play the 4-4-2. They squeeze super high and they kind of stopped Arsenal playing out from the back. But similarly, Arsenal, who press in a bit of a 4-4-2 diamond, were so brave in how they pressed. And again, credit to Mikel Arteta in this setup. Declan Rice, Jorginho in midfield was a big reason why they could squeeze so high. Declan Rice is absolutely fantastic at being aggressive high at the pitch. Not only has he got natural ability and winning challenges, but he's got the energy to keep that up for 90 minutes. So in terms of the pressing structure for Arsenal, it is this kind of 4-4-2 diamond. I mentioned a diamond because you've got basically the two outside midfielders, narrow a little bit to create a base, and you have Declan Rice or the nominal central midfielder that's going to play high. It could be Kai Havertz, could be Fabio Vieira at the tip of that diamond. This is a great structure because not only does it give you good coverage, but you can force your opponents down certain ways. The other thing what I loved about Arsenal and Arteta was how bold he was with his positioning of Zinchenko. Julian Alvarez was basically dropping in to create this box shape for Manchester City. City arguably building up in a bit of a 4-2-2-2 structure, a little bit like Brighton. De Zerbi's influence in the Premier League, absolute chef kiss. But that diamond in midfield or the box in midfield is really difficult to deal with. What Arsenal did in this situation is they went very much man-to-man with a spare man at the back. So what we saw with Zinchenko is he would move inside and he would block off the diamond. So if Arsenal were looking to squeeze high, he would tuck in and fill in that space. You'd have William Saliba as the spare man. Gabriel will go man-to-man on Haaland and Ben White would sit on Phil Foden. With Jorginho and Declan Rice in this position, with Zinchenko narrowing at times to create a bit of a base diamond himself, you have the extra defensive midfielder in there that can shuttle across and block those balls into the feet. Of course, because of Arsenal's structure is really good, the wide players do sit in a halfway house where they do deal with the midfielders around them, but also the fullbacks. You know, from the moment we're going to look at, we're going to bring Martinelli back into the team because he plays quite a good sort of role in this move, but this was classic Arsenal against City. They were so good at stopping City out the back. City are one of the best possession teams in the world of football. Let's take a look at how Arsenal stopped them. So the diamond, as we mentioned, we can see Gabriel Jesus far side dealing with Mateo Kovacic at the point. We've got Zinchenko at the base of the diamond picking up Julian Alvarez just in shot. Again, Martinelli's nice and narrow in the diamond structure. Declan Rice is dealing with Bernardo Silva at the tip of the diamond, and Martin Odegaard is going to apply pressure on the ball. This is fantastic defensive play high up the pitch, which leads to a turnover, an Arsenal transition and win a corner. So Martin Odegaard puts the squeeze on, puts pressure on the ball, and we can see City's box in midfield. We've got the Julian Alvarez dropping off the line, as we mentioned, Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, and Rico Lewis. This is a great structure. It allows you to narrow at times, the base of that box and the top of the box and wide. There's so many passing options that it creates. It could also look like a diamond at times. Again, ball retention really, really good for Manchester City. But Arteta had the answer. So got Martin Odegaard pressuring the ball. He then follows his press to press the goalkeeper as well. Really good work rate. One of the most underrated things about Martin Odegaard. His ability in a defensive sense is so, so good. But he continues his pressure on the goalkeeper to the right moment. We can see right now the tip of the diamond in Declan Rice is still stuck on Bernardo Silva, City's defensive midfielder in this game. Rico Lewis is also sat there, and Gabriel Martinelli is doing a really good job. He is waiting for the right moment. He's going to jump on Lewis if the ball's played into his feet, or he's going to move wide and look to block off either the pass inside or out wide to the fullback. Eddie Nketiah's role in the move is good as well. He presses out, with the Manchester City right-sided centre-back in possession in Ruben Diaz. And we could just see this from Declan Rice, who's absolutely fantastic. He is picking up Bernardo Silva when the ball's on the right side of the pitch, but he's going to jump and pick up Rico Lewis. Martinelli's going to read the tactical situation and pull wide and look to cover that lateral space. Again, the ball's played wide. You can see Rice jump onto Lewis, put pressure on the ball, and Martinelli has got Kyle Walker ready in his pocket to jump on him. Rice puts the pressure on Rico Lewis, forces him into a pretty dodgy pass. We can see him go off his feet there because of how quickly Rice closes it down. You can see Zinchenko in that inside position, as we mentioned before. He's pushed inside on Julian Alvarez. It's a bad touch from Julian Alvarez, and simply, as we mentioned previously, Jorginho is there to intercept. Arsenal can transition through Zinchenko, Zinchenko, ball out wide to Declan Rice, a great carry forward from Declan Rice, Arsenal win a corner. But it comes from great defensive work and great sort of tactical nous from Arsenal to have the extra defensive midfielder in this big game. So you could pick up Bernardo, you could pick up Lewis, but you've also got that screen inside. Just really good tactical things. Rice at the tip of the diamond, Jorginho at the base of the diamond, and Zinchenko going man for man. Great play from Arsenal. So moving on, Arsenal really stopped Manchester City out of the back. There was a lack of ball to the likes of Julian Alvarez and Phil Foden in the final third because of how good Arsenal's pressing was. But the game was changed with the substitutions. Guardiola went actually away from this 4-3-3 shape, or the narrow 4-3-3 shape he was playing, and switched back to a more defensive 4-4-2 structure, which for me won the game for Arsenal. Arsenal's subs, as we mentioned before, combined for the goal, but tactically there was a big reason why. So Arsenal had been dealing with Manchester City defending in a bit of a 4-5-1. There was pressure from Rico Lewis and Kovacic at times to put pressure on the football. But the changes for Manchester City adapted this. We saw Doku coming on from Julian Alvarez, who moved first to the right-hand side, and then he moved to the left wing, Phil Foden to the right wing. So we saw Matheus Nunes come on for Mateo Kovacic, John Stones replacing Rico Lewis. The shape changed though. What we saw from this moment on was more Bernardo Silva operating next to Haaland in an attacking midfield role. We saw John Stones and Matheus Nunes drop into midfield. Here is where I genuinely think the game was won and lost. But Arsenal's changes were far more impactful. Havertz came on from Eddie Nketiah, Partey on for Jorginho, and Tomiyasu on for Zinchenko. As we previously mentioned, when Arsenal were building up, they used Declan Rice in a deeper position and they pushed their left back higher up the pitch. Now for Manchester City's defensive 4-4-2 structure, this is where the game was won. What we saw, instead of it being a three-man midfield, as we mentioned previously, that could cover the movement in behind Arsenal's midfield, but now there was a threat of the inverted wing-back making runs in behind the midfield line, because previously you'd have an extra body in there that could cover that movement. Now, because of City's 4-4-2 defensive structure, there was a bit of a problem, which meant that space could be created to really overload their backline. What we saw with the goal was Kyle Walker being pulled out to deal with Martinelli, which opened up space for Tomiyasu. Again, with Thomas Partey's ball carrying from midfield, driving into that midfield line, and then playing the long pass, it creates a situation that Phil Foden has got a bit of an aerial battle with Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu has a massive advantage in terms of his height and his ability to get up. That consequently creates space for Arsenal to win the knockdown, drop the ball back for Martinelli to score the winner. But tactically, really good from Mikel Arteta, because there was definitely a distinct change. Declan Rice deep in midfield and the inverted wing-back playing in the inside left channel. We can have a look at the average positions in a minute to look at this, but let's take a look at the goal because it's really, really important. Usually you would see Arsenal's left-back inverting and joining Thomas Partey in the defensive midfield strata. But now we've got Declan Rice in this deep position. What you'd naturally expect is Arsenal's number 8 to be on the opponent's midfield line, looking to get in between the space, in between the lines, or receiving to feet. But Arteta's changed this. As the play goes forward, as we see Thomas Partey carry the ball out, you can see Martin Odegaard pulling Thomas Partey. What Arsenal want to do is kind of coax you into pressure. They want you to jump a little higher, which creates space in behind their midfield line. So again, great communication with the captain, drawing Thomas Partey forward. We've also got to look at this tactical mismatch. Tomiyasu in attacking sense versus Phil Foden. As the play develops, we can clearly see Manchester City's midfield line is in a good structure. It's fine at this moment. You could probably do with a little bit more work from Haaland off the ball. He had a very, very poor game in all aspects. Usually scores the goals, but Haaland was awful defensively, terrible on the ball, and got dominated by William Saliba. As the play moves forward, there's no pressure on the football, so Matheus Nunes has to jump out of position, creating space. But also, the other problem that Arsenal now have got, we can't even see Kyle Walker in shot. Tomiyasu is running off Phil Foden in this position, which creates a massive problem. We can see he's gone now. The space is there for him to attack. The ball over the top from Thomas Partey gets onto the head of Tomiyasu, the little knockdown to Kai Havertz. We can now see Kyle Walker's got to collapse over, which creates even more space for Martinelli on the edge of the box to simply put the ball into the back of the net with a deflection off Nathan Ake. But let's take a look at a bit of an aerial shot, because I think this really highlights the goal in a sense of Thomas Partey carrying into the opponent's half. We've got Declan Rice in that deep defensive midfield position. Tomiyasu's made the forward motion. Kyle Walker's got to be in this kind of wide position because of how wide Martinelli is. Martinelli is really hugging the touchline. It creates space. It basically means that Kyle Walker's got to sit a little bit wider, which opens up the space from him and Diaz, and obviously Phil Foden's not tracking the runner, which creates the goal. Great ball over the top from Partey, as we mentioned before. The defensive structure has to collapse in to try and deal with it, which opens up that bit of space for Martinelli to apply the finish. Superb goal from Arsenal, but great tactics from Mikel Arteta. But this tactic that won the game for Arsenal didn't actually tick in until Guardiola did switch that 4-4-2. When we do look at the shape and the structure, we can see with Arsenal that Declan Rice is deeper from an average position perspective than Zinchenko. When we look at the heat maps, you can see how deep Declan Rice's heat map is. He's most active just outside the penalty area. You know, the defensive work of Declan Rice, as we previously mentioned, brilliant. But you compare that to Zinchenko's heat map, a lot higher up the pitch, or even if we go a little further, we take a look at Tomiyasu's heat map, we can see that he is super high up the pitch. He's basically becoming an attacking inverted wing-back, and that really won the game for Arsenal. Superb tactics. On top of that, we've got to give a shout out to Gabriel and William Saliba. Both were absolutely outstanding. William Saliba made 2 clearances, won 100% of his 2 tackles, completed 99% of his passes against one of the best teams in European football, won 100% of his aerial duels, and of course, there was that moment that we've got to talk about. I really believe this got in Haaland's head. I think that from this point in the game, Haaland really dropped out. This was a counter-attack in the first half, Rico Lewis bringing the ball away, but the way that William Saliba defines this match with real strength, a brilliant shoulder challenge, just completely knocks Haaland off his feet. That, for me, got in Haaland's head, and he realised that it wasn't easy. He wasn't dealing with a usual centre-back. He's dealing with one of the best centre-backs in European football in William Saliba. It was brilliant. I thought that really put something in Haaland's head, and it allowed Saliba to dominate. And if we take a look at Haaland's statistics, we can see clear domination from William Saliba. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 shots on target, and expected goals of 0. Brilliant performance from Arsenal. Great tactics from Mikel Arteta. And I tell you what, we have got ourselves a title race. Big result for Arsenal, beating the reigning champions for the first time since 2017. Arteta's magic is really cooking at the moment, and some brilliant tactical tweaks. Rice is going to be a weapon for these big games. Arguably man of the match against Man City and man of the match against Manchester United. Brilliant stuff from Arteta. We've got a title race. Exciting times. Guys, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We do the Premier League review every Monday and every Tuesday of the Premier League season. I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe for you. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?